how to wrap up a conversation with someone who is not getting the hint, but without feeling like a jerk. You know, those situations where someone kind of corners you and they just keep talking, or when a conversation is just going way longer than expected and you need to be somewhere, or if, you know, those people who just like have this knack for pulling you into conversations that you don't want to be in, and you feel kind of stuck or you feel kind of trapped and you don't know how to get out of it, but you don't want to be a jerk by just like turning around and walking away, or you don't want to just say to them, well, maybe you do want to say to them, but you don't say to them, like, stop talking. I've got other things to do and I don't want to be in this conversation. Aside from those things, what do you do? And I'm going to talk you through and I'm going to teach you several different things that you can do, starting kind of light and a little bit subtle, but leading you more into like bold and clear, but also again, without being a jerk. I'm going to teach you how to wrap up those conversations, get yourself out of those conversations, get back to what you're doing or get going on what you need to get doing, and not feel stuck or trapped with people who like to talk a lot. If you're new to me, hey, my name is Kristina, and I'm a registered clinical therapist, a researcher, a coach, and the creator of the Breakthrough Coaching Program. I have a master's degree in counseling psychology, and I work to help heart-centered go-getter men and women break through worry, anxiety, and self-doubt so that they can get out of their heads, get into their lives, and love their lives. And for you, my heart-centered, sensitive, empathic people who don't want to be jerks, but then end up finding yourself getting trapped or stuck in conversations that you don't want to be in. Maybe it's just that you don't want to be in that conversation, or it's that you have something to do or something to get done or somewhere to be, but you end up getting trapped and stuck and don't know how to get out of it. And so then you end up feeling kind of frustrated and resentful, or even more stressed out because now you've had all this time taken from you that could have been prevented if you knew how to wrap things up, how to end those conversations, how to politely remove yourself from those conversations that maybe you don't want to be having, or maybe you just don't have time to have. And so I'm going to walk you through several strategies that you can use. And we're going to start with ones that are a little bit more gentle and subtle, and we're going to build up to ones that are a little bit more bold and clear. And so what you're going to do is you're going to try different ones, and you're going to try what kind of sits well with you and what works for you, and then use those ones and leave the rest. Take what works for you and leave the rest. So let's start with probably the most subtle one. And maybe you've done this before, but maybe you haven't. And this one is really simple. If someone is talking and they just keep talking and talking and talking, and you can't get a word in edgewise, what you can do to kind of break things up for them is you can do what I call the nod, open, and inhale. And so if someone is talking and if you nod, like if you start nodding and then you open your mouth as if you're going to say something, and inhale as if you're going to say something, right? Because we usually inhale before we speak. So if you nod and go, oh wait, we're not doing the hand yet. If you nod and go, and almost look like you want to say something, a lot of people will get the cue. They will get it, and they will kind of stop and be, it's just sort of natural human tendency to kind of stop and say, oh, for them to think this person wants to say something. And so they may put a break in the conversation where you can actually say something, interject, and we'll talk about what you can say to excuse yourself from the situation. But that might be the first thing that you can do to get them to just take a break, to give you an opening to be able to wrap up the conversation or excuse yourself from the conversation. Now, if they don't get that hint, if you're just standing there like, don't forget to breathe again. If they're not getting the hint and not letting you say anything, then you can bring in some physical gestures. And like I was doing before, and I jumped the gun a little bit on that one, but pointing up. So it's the same thing, so that you're going to nod and open your mouth and inhale as if you're going to say something, but then bring your finger up as if to say like, oh, I have something to say. And it's almost a little bit like raising your hand like you would in school, but sometimes instead of, kind of standing like this, which might feel a little bit odd, just kind of pointing your finger up like, oh, I have a point to make. And maybe the point is that I need to get going and I need to wrap up this conversation. Or maybe it even will indicate to them that it's like, oh, just 1 second, and it will oftentimes, not always, some people will just bulldoze right past it, but some people will get that hint. So nod, inhale, open your mouth and inhale, and stick up your finger, like something like that. You do it the way you do it and make it work for you. Now, maybe the person totally bulldozes over that and doesn't even notice and is just so excited to have this captive audience that's not just talking right over them, and they might just keep going. So the next thing you can do is to touch them, and not in a creepy, weird way, not in an inappropriate way, but if it's someone that you are familiar with enough, just reaching out and touching them on the arm. And that, when someone touches us, it breaks a bit of concentration, right? It kind of throws things off a little bit, and it creates this natural break. So if someone's in the middle of talking, you just lean forward and gently touch them on the arm. It is this universal cue that I want to interject. I want to say something, and it will cause them most likely to break up what they are saying, to take a little break and to look at you and to be curious about what you have to say. So just gently touching them on the arm, if it's appropriate, if it's someone that you feel comfortable doing that with. Now let's talk about what we can actually say. So let's say we've tried one of these strategies and they have broken up what they're saying. They are listening to us. They want to hear what we have to say. And what we want to say is something to wrap up the conversation. Or the other thing is, if they're not catching any of your nonverbal cues, or they're not catching any of this stuff that you're doing, sometimes we do just have to plain old talk over them and cut them off, but in a kind way, in a respectful way. So what do we do? So either if we have this break in the conversation, or if we just need to talk over them, here's some things that you can say that are respectful and kind, that will likely not throw them off or put them off, or send them off crying in the corner or whatever. So the first thing that you can say is just, I'd love to stay and chat, but I need to get going. And just simple as that, clear and concise. The next thing you can say is just, if they're telling you something that's really personal, just being able to sum up, like, thanks for sharing that. I can hear that things are really hard right now. I'd love to talk more. So can we pick this conversation up later on? Or maybe it's not a conversation that you want to continue on. Maybe it's not something that you want to pick up later on. And so not saying that when you don't actually mean it and actually plan to follow through on that, because that can actually be really hurtful. But just being able to say to them, like, thanks so much for chatting, but I have some things to get done, or I need to get going, or I need to finish what I'm doing, depending on where you are, what situation, and just being able to say, like, thanks for chatting, or, it was nice to talk to you, but I need to finish some things up, and not making a commitment to continuing the conversation later on. The other thing that you can do is just being able to say, to, again, not create sort of false hope and a commitment to bringing things up later on, is just being able to say, like, unfortunately, I don't have time to talk right now. Unfortunately, I don't have time to continue this conversation because I've got a lot of things to get done. And maybe if it's at work, I'm running on a tight deadline, or I need to get these things done so I'm not here late tonight. So just being able to say, unfortunately, I can't, I don't have time to talk right now. And simple as that. It doesn't need to be harsh, but it can be clear. It can be assertive. And then this next one, this is one that I use often. And I really like this one, especially for people who, even if you say, because there will be some people, even if you say, like, I need to get going, or I need to wrap this up, or I've got some things to get done, they'll say, okay, well, just 1 second. And they'll just keep talking. And you're like, did you not hear me? What just happened? I heard the words come out of my mouth, and you are completely bulldozing over them. This one is great for situations like that, and it works wonders. And so this one I used with my mom, and bless her heart, I love my mother dearly. But you know, me talking, I come by it honestly. I talk a lot, my mom talks a lot. And so sometimes we'll be in conversations on the phone where I really need to get going and I need to wrap things up, or I need to finish some things, or, you know, I'm running behind or something like this. And she just keeps talking and talking and talking and talking. And so the technique that you can use for these types of situations, and you guys, I want you to tell me if you tried it and tell me how well it works. It's called the broken record. And literally, you just become a broken record. And for those of you who are too young to know what a record is, shame on you. No, I'm just kidding. But it literally is just becoming that broken record and repeating the same thing over and over again until the person gets it. So I used this with my mom in a conversation a little while ago, and we were chatting and having a conversation, but then I realized I needed to get going. And so I said, Mom, I'd love to chat more, but I really need to go. I really need to get going because I need to finish a few things. And then she's just like, okay. And she just kept talking. And I said, Mom, I'd really love to chat more, but I need to get going because I need to finish a few things. And then she just kept talking. I was like, Mom, I'd love to chat more, but I really need to get going because I need to finish a few things. And finally, it clicked. And she was like, oh, okay, I'll talk to you later. Bye. And that was it. She wasn't insulted or offended. I just kept repeating the same thing. And that one's called the broken record. It works really well, especially for those people who just aren't necessarily getting the hint. Not because they're bad people, but maybe they just want to talk and maybe you just can't. And that is allowed. But I want to hear from you. What are your favorite ways? So those of you who have tips on how to wrap up conversations, let us know in the comment section below. Let's share our wisdom on this stuff. How do you wrap up a conversation? What are specific things that you say? What do you find helpful? I'd also like you to let me know which one of these you found enlightening, which one of these different strategies or skills that I've taught you today, which one did you find helpful? Which one are you going to try? And let us know too if you have struggled with getting stuck in conversations that you don't want to be in, but don't want to be a jerk, and so haven't known how to wrap things up. Would love to hear in the comment section below. If you guys are interested in more of this assertive communication stuff and learning how to just like be more clear, concise, and nice in your conversation, I have a workshop, a course called Speak and Feel Heard. It's an effective and assertive communication, just like a mini course that you can grab, and I will put the link to the information about that below. And find out more about that. Thank you guys so much for being here. Always good to connect with you. Share this out. Don't forget to give a like before you go, and to, let me know. Talk to me in the comment section below so that it's not just me talking, so we get to have a little bit more of a conversation. Come and join my Facebook group, goodformegroup.com. And until next time, subscribe to the channel before next time, now. And until next time, take good care.